Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio and video related products, and if you're new here, well, that's exactly what I do. Now today we're looking at a camera that I recently purchased. It actually isn't a new model, it's been around since February 2016. It's taken me all this time to get around to purchasing it. When I first looked at it back in probably 2017, maybe later 2016, I was impressed with it, but I didn't want to buy it because it was really expensive. I wasn't impressed with its value for money, let's put it that way. So I didn't really have a good look at it, but I've actually fallen in love with it, and it's a fantastic camera. And the camera I'm talking about is the Olympus Pen F, and here it is. I've got fitted to it my Olympus 17mm f1.8 lens, and I'm really adoring this camera. There's many reviews on the internet about this particular camera, but I'm just going to explain why I purchased it and why I really like it. Now, it is very much designed on the original Pen F half frame camera, and that was quite an interesting concept because you'd put a roll of 35mm film in, so a 36 exposure film would actually produce 72 images because it produced an image. It was it's called half frame because each full frame of 35mm created 2 images, so very clever design. And this camera, if you look at the images of the Pen F, I actually haven't got a Pen F to show you, but if you look at images of the Pen F, the original Pen F, you see the really strong similarities between the original Pen F, which was made in the 1960s, I think it was 63, compared to the new, well, it's not new now, the 2016 digital Pen F. And as I say, it's beautiful. It is really gorgeous. It's probably the sexiest, most gorgeous camera I've ever owned and handled. I know Leicas are meant to be really sexy and gorgeous. I've never had a Leica, so I can't really comment, but beautiful design, very nice design, and beautifully made. Very well made. It's built solid. Doesn't feel like it's gonna collapse on you. And as I bought this one second hand. I got it from Wex Photographic here in the UK, 12-month warranty, used, but it feels mint. It feels like it's never been used, and it came in its original packaging and what have you. So I'm absolutely delighted with it. Now, we're going to go through some of its features and why I really like it. It's not because of its sexiness. I mean, surely we all buy cameras because of what they can do rather than how they look. I don't know. I think when you're going out and about, it's a kind of a combination of both, isn't it? You want to be seen with a really nice looking piece of kit, but you also want a functional piece of kit. So this is both. The only thing that it isn't great at is video. It's only HD video. Slow motion is in, I don't even think it's 720. I've not even looked at it. But the video quality from it, I have played with the video. It's only HD, but it's a very soft HD. It's not a particularly great video camera. Now, back in 2016, Olympus weren't really known for their video features in any of their cameras. You look at the original OM1, that was only HD video. I'm talking about the OM1 digital now, the OMD EM1. That was only HD video, it wasn't 4K. But now, when you look at the likes of the fabulous EM1 Mark III, OMD EM1 Mark III I have here, not only has it got 4K, it's got slow motion, raw output via HDMI. So, you know, Olympus really have come on in leaps and bounds with video. I don't think they're still up to the game of what Sony are or what Nikon are, you know, and the other major players such as Canon and Panasonic particularly. But I'm really enjoying my Nikons for producing this channel and producing my content. So I mean, today I've got my Nikon ZFC with its 40mm full frame lens on, getting the close-up shots. I got me Nikon Z6 with the Viltrox 24mm lens, getting the wide angle shots, but that's set to APS-C mode, so it's cropping in just that little bit tighter. Then I've got my Sony ZV-1, getting the close-up shots of my camera, the Pen F, and then over here I've got just picking up a wide shot over my shoulder shot of the with the Sony A6600. So that's kind of my setup for today. It does vary, but that's my general setup. That's the sort of setup that I like. Now, getting back to this camera, it's got all the usual functions that you would find on a modern digital camera. You've got your PASM dial here. That's lockable, which is great. So you just push in the button on the top to lock it. I generally don't bother because it's so solid, you don't need to. Obviously shutter release, and it's got your 2 command dials, which is great. So you've got the one on the back and you've got your one on the front. Now, and it's also got a dedicated exposure compensation dial. Now, I've remapped the exposure compensation dial to another function, and I've set the exposure compensation on the back command dial, because that's how I've got it set up on all my other Olympus cameras and on my Nikons, and I find that is great. So when I've got it up to my eye like this, I can adjust the aperture on the main dial and the exposure compensation on the rear dial, and that's the same if I'm in shutter priority. I can adjust the shutter speed on the front, the exposure compensation on the back. I just find that is a really natural way of holding the camera, and that's a real natural way of just adjusting the settings. That is cool. I really like that. It has got built-in viewfinder. That's another reason why I purchased this camera, because it's got a built-in viewfinder, and that is quite useful. In fact, it's very useful under certain conditions, certainly in very bright sunlight. I have got the Olympus EP7. I've got it sat on the desk over there somewhere. There it is, yeah. Oh, let's just get that. I've got the Olympus EP7, which is a great little camera. This is another excellent little camera, but it hasn't got a viewfinder. And I did find on a few occasions in really bright sunlight, this was a bit of an issue because you couldn't clearly see the screen. The sun was obscuring the screen. So any camera with a viewfinder is a bonus to me. Not critical, but it's certainly a bonus, and it's a really lovely viewfinder. It's got the 3-inch articulating screen, which is nice. I say nice, to be honest, because I use this predominantly, or pretty much entirely for taking photographs as opposed to doing video. I would have preferred the tilty-wilty screen. That to me would have been so much more functional for photography than having an articulating screen, because I always worry that when I bring it out, I'm going to snap it off when I'm, leaning downwards to take photographs or looking over, a crowd or whatever. So I would have preferred a tilty-wilty screen, but nonetheless, it's got the articulating screen, which was, I think, quite revolutionary back in 2016. There wasn't that many cameras with an articulating screen. I know quite a few Canons did. Panasonic have been using articulating screens on their cameras for quite some time now. But for a photographic tool, it was quite revolutionary to put an articulating screen on the camera. And it is solid. I mean, it's well made. It's a 3-inch screen. I don't know what the resolution is. I'll put that in the video, what the resolution of the screen is. And it's got on the front here another function button, which I've mapped for something else. And it's got a mode dial for adjusting either your color settings, monochrome settings, and what have you. That, I thought, because I shoot predominantly RAW, I thought that would be a gimmick, but I'm starting to find actually it's quite handy, because I can leave it set in mono, and you've got a lot of different ranges of mono, whether you want a real contrasting mono image or whether you want quite a flat monochrome image and what have you. And it's quite handy because it only affects the JPEG images. I found if I'm shooting JPEG and RAW, I can leave that set to mono, and I've got the best of both worlds. I'm getting a lovely JPEG monochrome image, and I'm also getting the RAW image with all the colour data and the colour information. So I'm getting the best of both worlds. I'm not sure how really useful that would be, because the only unfortunate thing is when you've got it set to mono, the image in the viewfinder is black and white. So if you look at that, you can see there now it is actually a colour image on the back of the screen if I've got that set to no filter whatsoever. But as you turn that filter wheel, it'll change what's on the back of the screen. So there you've got monochrome. It comes up with a wheel when you're using monochrome, so you can adjust the different parameters of that monochrome image, the greens, the blues, the yellows, and what have you. But I usually have it set in the neutral position, so it doesn't have any impact whatsoever. But as I say, because I shoot predominantly raw, then this wheel on the front has no impact whatsoever. That only affects JPEG images. It doesn't affect anything with that raw image. So I tend to find I don't use it a great deal, but it's kind of fun to have there if you do want to shoot some black and white images. I know with street photography, there's a lot of street photographers that do like the black and white image. I mean, like I think Fuji do. They make cameras with only black and white sensors in. Sensors that will only record a black and white image, but nevertheless, that is there, and you can't remap it. That's the only other unfortunate thing. You can't remap it to a different function. That would have been really handy, but you can't do that. The only other thing I find with the function buttons, it's very limited what you can actually remap those functions to. So unlike Nikon, Canon, Panasonic and what have you, the function buttons you can map to hundreds of different functions. You can't with this particular Olympus. It's very, very limited. But you know, I still use it for adjusting certain function buttons, certain functions. As I said, it's got a lovely viewfinder, normal pad on the back here for adjusting, you know, ISO, focus settings and what have you. Well, I tend to do it via the screen. So I would use touch to focus on the screen. That works absolutely fine. I've had no issues with that. Or if I'm looking through the viewfinder, I would do it at the viewfinder and move my thumb across the screen. And well, you can't see me doing that, but that will move a focus point to where I want it. So they have implemented touch to focus. I think they called it touchpad or pad focus or touchpad. I'm not quite sure. But you can actually move your thumb across the screen and set your focus point that way. I think that's awesome. It's got, what else does it have? That's pretty much it as far as function buttons. It takes the standard micro four thirds lenses, so that's another feature that I really do like. It's got a 20 megapixel micro four thirds sensor in the camera, so that's you know, I'm not sure which sensor it is. I think it's the same sensor that would be in the Panasonic G9 and the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II. Because they're 20 megapixel sensors. Might not be the same sensor, I don't know, but 20 megapixels is fine, you know. But this particular camera has got fantastic 5-axis image stabilization. I believe it's 4.5 stops of 5-axis image stabilization. So if you're photographing still life, architecture, particular subjects that aren't moving, then landscapes particularly, you can actually set a slower shutter speed to still get a really sharp image, and that brings your ISO level down. So you don't have to worry too much about the fact that micro four thirds cameras are not great in low light. You would have an issue if you're photographing sports, particularly wildlife, possibly, you know, in low light conditions. But for general photography and general video, micro four thirds is absolutely fine. That's why I use it. I've got a lot of micro four thirds cameras. They're very light to carry. The lenses are very compact. As far as batteries are concerned, it's a fairly standard battery. I think it's the same battery that goes in the OM10 2 or the OM10 4. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it's a BLS 5. I will put that on in the description, but sort of standard battery. And it's a UHS 2 card slot. Unfortunately, as with so many manufacturers, they put it in the battery compartment, which is rather annoying. I really wish it was on the side of the camera as opposed to in the battery compartment, but you know, you can't have it always, can you? I just find that fiddly and annoying, but it's in there. And the only other slightly strange thing, maybe they had to because of the design of the body, I don't know, but the tripod connection or the tripod mount is right up, button up close to the lens. And that's going to be an issue with some tripod plates because they may affect, they might touch the lens or affect the lens operation. I don't know, but it's a bit annoying. It would have been better if it was further back as opposed to right up against the lens. But other than that, incredibly sexy, incredibly gorgeous camera. There is one feature on here that I don't use, and I really wish you could remap this particular function to another function, but you can't, and it's really annoying, and I don't even use it. It's a complete waste, you know, a waste of a function. It's not a button, it's a lever, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. But it only affects JPEG images again. It doesn't affect RAW images, so it's kind of defeats the object of it being there. So there's two function buttons on this camera, but you can't remap, and that's kind of annoying. And the two are, one I've already mentioned is the one on the front here. That is your color control, that can't be remapped. But on the back here, it's got this lovely lever and a lovely position for your thumb. So when you're out taking photographs, it's in the ideal position because it's right there. But this lever here is for adjusting tones and highlights and shadow details before you actually take the photograph. It's a great concept for JPEGs. So, you know, you're out and about and you see a really contrasty situation, you know, building against the sun or whatever. You can't use that and remap it for something else. That will only affect JPEGs. So it's a bit annoying. That function button is there, but you can't use it for anything else. So that's pretty much the camera. The on-off switch on the back, on the top here, again slightly annoying. It's on the left because if you're going out and again, I keep saying going out and about, but even out taking street photographs, you're out taking them, but you can't get your thumb right across the, you know, the camera to be able to turn it on and off with one hand. That's really annoying. You have to use both hands really to get to, you know, those buttons. That's the same, exactly the same on the EM1 Mark II, the OMD EM1 Mark III and what have you. Their on-off switch again is on the top left, you know, around the rewind, well, it used to be the rewind lever on the top left. Though you can on the OM1, 2 and 3, you can remap this lever on the back here to be your on-off switch. So this lever on the back here can be remapped. I haven't remapped it because I have one position for video, the other position for still images, and I found that works great for me. Yeah, what I want to do, just quickly go through some of these images that I've taken with the Pen F. And I would say, rather than study them on my YouTube channel, although I am going to put them on this video, is go to my Flickr page. I'll put a link in the description to my Flickr page. Take a look at them on Flickr, because you can see more accurately how good these images really are, rather than looking at them on YouTube, because the compression on YouTube is so great, you can't study them. Also, you'd have to pause the video and what have you. So I would strongly suggest go to my Flickr page and view them there and tell me what you think. Yeah, if we have a quick look at some of these images, you'll see here they're lovely and sharp. Now this is taken with the 17mm Olympus lens. Let's just get rid of some of that, that's better. Now there I've put an additional sky in. That's not how it came out, it's how it came out of camera. Rather boring. The building, that building should be flattened, but there we go. I'm going to actually quickly go into how you change sky so quickly and easily with a different program, but again, there's another sky replacer. Let's look at the original image. You can just see how sharp and the clarity. Again, this is the 17mm Olympus 17mm f1.8 lens, and it is a fantastic lens to keep on your camera all the time, because it's a great travel camera with that. It's a great street camera. Look how compact that is with that lens. I think they called it a pancake lens. It's even got the clutch for manual focus, which is what you find on their pro lenses. So pull it back and you're into manual focus, autofocus. Can you see that? Manual focus, and then you can turn it for focusing, and then autofocus. So, you know, great little lens, and the image quality again is fantastic, as you can see when you look at them on Flickr. But yeah, again, I've changed the sky on that one. You can see again the clarity, the sharpness, the edge-to-edge definition. That sensor is producing some really lovely images. Again, I've replaced the sky in that one. But you can see here the brickwork in that building is absolutely gorgeous. The colours that are coming off that sensor, that camera. I'm just finding it's a great travel camera. I could put that with my OMD EM10 Mark IV, whatever, in a little camera, a very little camera bag, and you know, away you go. Even me EM1 Mark III, you know. But let's just go back to this one. I mean, that's got a crappy sky. I'm going to explain to you a bit about how I edit the skies. So here we go to edit in Luminar Neo. We'll do it as a TIFF file. That'll take me from Lightroom straight to Luminar Neo. And then once it's in Luminar Neo, we can actually change the sky. Now, what I would suggest, I will put a link to my website, one of my websites, where you can download trial versions of Luminar Neo. And if you really do like the software, after you've played with it, use the code AVP to get $10 off your purchase price, and you'll love the software. It's not expensive either. Also with that software, once you've purchased it, you own it. There's no subscription model like there is with Lightroom, so it's fantastic from that point of view. It does everything that Lightroom does as well. It does your brightness, contrast, removing bits and pieces. You know, it's fantastic for that. But I use it a lot for sky replacement because it is just so quick and easy, and for a lot of its artificial intelligence features that it has. Yeah, if we look at this here, now it's in Neo, we go into the edit module. So we go into edit, and then down the right hand side here, you've got all these different things you can do. So we go to sky, because this sky is naff, you have to admit. It's pretty naff sky. It's not a great image, but you bring up, go into sky collection or sky selection. So because it's a very flat image, we don't want a sort of a sunny thing. So let's just pick that one for sake of argument. And then within a few seconds, it's changed that sky. And look at that, that's brilliant, isn't it? Now we can go back to enhance, still using Neo, and then we can do a complete adjustment of that. Makes it really, I'll make that image really, but it's too much. Make that image really pop. Look at that, now that is really popping, really vivid. It could be argued that I overcook my images. I know I've had several people say that I overcook my images. Well, the great thing with photography, and with video to some extent, but with photography, why not? If that's the look that you like, it's quite irrelevant whether other people don't like that look. It only becomes relevant if you're working for a client and you're doing paid commercial work. Then it's completely relevant, but the client does like what you do. You need to produce work that the client wants. That pretty much goes without saying if you want repeat business. But if you're producing images for your own content and for your own satisfaction, then edit them to your heart's content how you like them. I genuinely believe that. I really don't think it matters what other people think. So maybe I overcook my images, maybe I don't, but I don't really care anyway. So it's what I like. So but if we look at that image back in Lightroom, you can see there, let's go actually full screen on that. You can see there, that's made a very flat, uninteresting image, a lot more interesting. And you can actually move the sky around and adjust it to wherever you want. So that's how it was, really flat. Of course, with RAW files that are coming off this camera or any camera, you've got a lot more leeway with adjusting your dynamic range. So you can do a lot more editing with a RAW file than you can with a JPEG file. That's why I always say to people, shoot RAW and get into the habit of editing the RAW images. You will be much happier with them afterwards than the JPEGs straight out of camera. The big advantage with JPEGs straight out of camera is being able to upload them straight to Instagram, Facebook and that kind of thing for social media. And that's just a quick look, without going into any great details, of the Olympus Pen F. So, and again, I would definitely encourage you to take a look at my Flickr page so you can see these images in more detail. And I will be uploading more images from the Pen F as I take more images. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this, useful. And if you did, please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit the like button if you haven't already done so. That would be really, really helpful. And leave any comments in the comment section. I would actually be very interested to know how many of you, or if any of you, are using or have used the Olympus Pen F digital. That would be fascinating to know. And also, it'd be really fascinating to know if any of you still use the original Pen F film camera, the half-frame Pen F film camera. That would be fascinating to know. I'd love to know what the image quality from that was like back in the day. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for more videos relating to video photography, audio, podcasting, so on and so forth. Cheers for now. Bye.